Hi guys, great to see you. My name is Jules Taylor. I'm the founder of Gramersi.com. Today is our 2-year anniversary since starting. Massive day for us, really exciting. I thought to celebrate, I'll do something a little bit special, a little bit different. I've invited my good friend here, Andrew Bloch, to come and celebrate with me, share a little message. So yeah, good to see you, Andrew. How you doing?
Yeah, good to see you too. Congratulations, it's a great milestone. So well done on everything you've achieved, and glad that I'm here to celebrate with you.
Thanks very much. I'm really happy that you're here with us today. So I guess we started in 2020, and that was a big year for everybody, not just for us. Obviously, we're launching, but we had the pandemic starting, and then also it's a big year for you as well, because that was the year that you stepped down for Frank. So I guess I was going to start off just quickly by saying, looking back in hindsight now, what does 2020 mean to you?
Well, I'm celebrating my 2-year anniversary as well. So I think I'm a couple of months ahead of you. But I think, when I made the decision to step back from Frank, it was tough. Definitely the hardest professional decision I've ever had to make. And I agonized over it for, I'm not exaggerating, but a good couple of years. And then, of course, made my decision beginning of 2020, not knowing what was around the corner, and I'd agreed to sort of stay day to day with the business for 6 months or so. I'm still involved in a non-exec capacity and as a shareholder, but I agreed that I'd sort of do Monday to Friday for another 6 months. Then the pandemic hit, and I was like, oh God, I've had 20 years to make this decision, and I've done it at the time of the most turbulent business time that I think any of us have ever experienced. But to be honest, it was good for me. It was great timing. I think when things are difficult, businesses are forced to reevaluate, to reprioritize, to pivot, whatever the term you want to use is, and I was there to help them, to guide them through. And I think also just not having that legacy of clients that you've worked with for years, that through no fault of their own, perhaps the industry they're in or just what was going on, were faced with lots of difficulties, having to pull budgets, cut stuff back. For me, the people that were approaching me and I was speaking to were all people that had an opportunity, had a challenge, needed help. So I didn't have any of that headache really of navigating choppy waters with people who really didn't want to be spending money or doing anything, couldn't do anything. So yeah, I think with hindsight, it's all worked out pretty well.
Oh, I'm glad. Congratulations to you too. And I miss your birthday. I remember reading your post you put on LinkedIn. I remember a comment on it and being like reading it and feeling kind of getting imposter syndrome for a second there, thinking, God, all the things you've achieved and what have I done in comparison? So
mate, you know what they say, you can never compare yourself. You shouldn't compare yourself to others. And I think you've achieved a hell of a lot in a couple of years. So
well, thanks. I think, yeah, you're a machine, Andrew. I know you've always got a lot going on. Obviously, a big part of this for you, I remember when we first ever spoke, you was telling me how a big part of it was trying to get, achieve a better work-life balance, wasn't it? Because you felt as though you're doing the day-to-day, the running around like a crazy person. So do you think you've achieved that? Because obviously on your LinkedIn profile, people go on there and go, well, he looks like a busy guy to me. So do you feel as though you're getting a better work-life balance? Obviously, with everyone being stuck at home during a pandemic, and how do you feel about that?
I would, if I'm being honest, I would say it's work in progress. I've definitely improved. And I think, one of the positives that have come out of the pandemic is an acceptability of being able to balance your working hours and work when you want and not when you want. So, 100%, I've been able to be there for my kids and pick them up from school and do the concerts, go to the football matches, watch them play cricket, all of that kind of stuff. And, sometimes I find myself working in the evenings to make up for afternoons off. But, that's what work-life balance is all about, really. And I've also been able to dedicate more time to helping people, doing more purpose-driven work, not-for-profit stuff, which is always something I've been passionate about in terms of helping others and being able to use my expertise and my skill set to do good. And I think being able to sort of carve that time out as well has been a real benefit. But I don't know if you find the same. When you love what you do and you're passionate about it, and there's certainly no shortage of work, if you're not disciplined about it, you can find yourself sort of working non-stop. And for me, when I'm my happiest is when I've got that balance right, and I'm giving the right time and attention, not just to my clients, but to my family, to my kids, to the people I love. That's what it's all about. But I'm no master of it by any means. But I sat down at the beginning of this year and sort of looked at what I'd achieved the previous year, put in place some sort of conscious decisions to improve it sort of a bit further. And I'll probably sit down at the beginning of next year and do the same again. But all good. I think, as I said, not going into an office 9 to 5 saves you time, and you can use that time wisely. And I think as you learn about yourself and your business evolves, you learn what you want to do and what you don't want to do. So the other thing that I've been very consciously working on myself is learning how to say no to things, because I think when you're, I guess, like I am, a sort of people pleaser, and you get enthusiastic about almost anything I can be passionate about and get into, you can land yourself in a bit of a dangerous place where you're trying to please everyone, and then the person that's suffering is yourself, really. So I think I've got better at that, but it's a never-ending journey of improvement.
It is, and I've been a victim of that myself recently, to be honest. I've been saying yes to everything and then neglecting myself in the process of trying to facilitate everybody else's needs, I guess you could say. Obviously, I think people know you well for Frank, they know you well for work with Lord Sugar, but one thing that you also do is Can of Water, which, funny enough, I kind of remember when they first launched, and I was kind of keeping my eye on them, and then I remember just thinking, I don't get it, the whole can thing. But actually, I'll take back what I said, because a couple of months ago, me and a friend were at the, with the auditorium in London Bridge, where they do the little musical performance on the river. I think it's
yes, yeah.
I was sitting there, and I remember buying a can of water because it was the only water that was available. I don't think they had any bottles, and I drank it. And I can honestly say, other people might disagree with me, but I'm going to say it was the best, stored water product I've ever had. It tasted unreal, and I was really quite surprised. I was like, okay, wow, water is not supposed to be in plastic bottles. Sorry, that's it, done, decision made. So I guess yeah, would love to hear what you're doing with them, and also your thoughts on water in a can.
I mean, it's been a real pleasure working with them. They're a classic challenger brand, and they obviously haven't got the budgets of, well, not obviously, they haven't got the budgets of their competitors, so they need to be a bit disruptive and think differently, and that's where I've tried to help them put in place the right agencies that can help them do that. But importantly, they're a brand with real purpose, and the reason why they're in a can is because cans are better for the environment, easier to recycle than plastic, and plastic waste is a huge issue, and it's a topic that I'm very interested in, and I've done a lot of work in that area trying to reduce plastic waste consumption. So I think that sort of combination of a brand that's purpose-driven, but it's not necessarily aimed at sort of hardcore environmentalists, Guardian readers, tree huggers. It's aimed at people like you and me that want to do good in the world, but if we're being honest about it, probably don't want to inconvenience ourselves or compromise too much in order to do something good. So it's a kind of a win-win, and they're building as a brand. Their market share is expanding day by day, week by week, month by month, and so now they've got in place a sort of agency network that is going to help them cut through and achieve some attention whilst they're competing against budgets of 10, 100 times their size from some of the leading brands that are out there. So no, it's been I love working with brands that are on a journey like that, and they're bold and they're not afraid to do something a little bit different in order to get noticed.
And it tastes good. I mean, ultimately, it's what you want, right? You want to walk into a shop, pick up something because it tastes bloody good. That's what you want, isn't it? So it tastes good.
Of course, you can have all the positive messages in the world, but if your product is inferior to a competitor, it's not. It's a gift to work with a great product. It always helps.
It is. Moving on to me really quickly. I'll tell you a bit about my story, and then let's move on to the next question, I guess. So I first started planning this in late 2019, but originally we were a social media platform, like a shoppable social media platform and stuff. Because at the time Facebook and Instagram shopping hadn't launched, and I saw a gap in the market for making these posts shoppable, within the kind of influencer space and brand space. But then we built a little piece of tech which worked. We got some investors interested, some brands signed up for it for the pilot launch, and then that was it. Facebook and Instagram announced we're launching the shopping function, and that was like a bad day. That I was like, oh, we come so far, and then just within literally 2 minutes, the dream was crushed. The dream was over. That was about March 2020, so that was probably a week or two after they put us into lockdown. So that was kind of right at the start of the pandemic, and then I spent ages deliberating over what else we could do, and then in the end, we just went with the idea of doing shoppable articles as opposed to doing shoppable photos and videos on a social media type platform, and kind of specializing in that really. Now, the interesting thing is that no one could have possibly known how COVID was going to affect the retail industry in the way that it did, with e-commerce spend tripling globally, with hyper-local being on the rise, with more like an unbelievable amount of sustainable brands launching, like incredible amount, which obviously we were kind of the forefront of that really. And also people that had lost their jobs, people who their partners had walked out during the pandemic. We wrote about single mum entrepreneurs that had their partners couldn't handle it. They'd left them, they'd moved on and gone. And suddenly they were doing these amazing things. So I really feel like from my perspective, from us, like, of course, COVID was a really bad thing in the sense it affected, a lot of people in a negative way. And obviously the people we lost along the way, but also it's amazing how many people turned to ingenuity during that period and the incredible stuff that's been done. And I guess that's really what we became. Like we became the platform, the voice for those types of people, and the large majority of what we've written about has been COVID brands. So 2 years later, looking back, I guess I just feel really happy that I always say we accidentally launched at the right time, because it's true, we did. So, we couldn't have made this up. No one could have predicted this. No one's genius enough to figure that out, are they? Let's be honest. No one's got psychic powers. But I guess moving on, I thought, seeing as it is a 2-year birthday now, I thought I'd just really quickly talk about, a couple of the things we've done together, because one of my favourites, the Gramersi campaign that we did together. I know it was about a year ago now when we did that. But I mean, that has been, it's gone on to become, it wasn't at the time, but it's gone to become the most successful article we've ever done, ever.
Didn't know that. That's good to know.
Thousands of clicks, and actually we keep getting surges. Like, we'll have a normal month where we're getting, a couple hundred views organically on it, and then it just blows up like crazy. We'll get thousands of clicks on it. So it's been, I don't know the exact number, but it's been thousands and thousands of clicks at this point. So obviously for us, the Gramersi campaign's been amazing for us. So thank you for giving that to us. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
We did obviously Harpreet Core, Apprentice winner. We did 2 campaigns with Harpreet. We did the first one, which was the winner announcement, as you know, on The Apprentice. And then a couple of months later, I happened to be in Yorkshire. So I popped up to Huddersfield, not too far from Leeds, and went in and saw Harpreet, checked out her awesome dessert parlor in there. We kind of spent, an hour or so together. I was asking all the questions about what's happened since and stuff. And it's really great to see that she's getting on really well. She's doing great. Business is doing fantastic well. So again, another hugely successful campaign for us. So thanks very much for that.
No, that's okay. And thanks for all your support. I think it works very well. As you know, Lord Sugar sort of is a big investor in entrepreneurs and young people. And, Harpreet obviously came through the apprentice process. Gemma was someone who actually approached him, and he saw something in her, and she's now got a label lady business, which is absolutely flying. But they've all got great stories to tell. So I think it works well for you, because I think, nowadays, any successful brand has a successful spokesperson, figurehead behind it. And I think, when I look at all the people that Lord Sugar's invested in over the years, which I've been privileged to sort of work with most of them, they all sort of have a certain trait, even though they've got different businesses, and they've all got this sort of work ethic, this grit, this determination, a hunger to succeed. And with it sort of comes great stories that are interesting to read. And you've told those stories beautifully. So thank you.
Andrew, that means a lot to me for you to say it. Thank you very much. And you're right, and I would say the same thing. I think the one thing that I've definitely seen as a common thread throughout Lord Sugar's investments is humbleness, being grounded, not being not having an ego too sky high, being very kind of very humble person. Also that work ethic, I mean, that's one thing that if you look at like, for example, Harpreet, she's a very humble person, and I found her to be quite approachable, quite easy to get on with, and not that I was surprised that she's like that. It was a surprise, but it was kind of almost a confirmation of everything that I already thought and knew. I was like, well, I can see why he's invested in Harpreet, because she genuinely is a lovely person, and you can spend an hour with her, and it's a pleasant, positive experience. Her ego's not crazy up here. So and I think that's why a lot of them have gone to do so well themselves. So you're welcome, and thank you. I just wanted to mention one more person before we move on, which is Amani Zubair, who again I happened to have met 2 days before I went to Yorkshire to meet Harpreet, actually, and we spoke at the Cloud Lit Business School, the UWL, and I just think for me, I was really taken back that someone who was 19 years old could drop out of university. It's that classic Steve Jobs story, isn't it? She could start this enterprise with a £200 loan from her mum. Before it, went out there, tried to get on Lord Sugar, and the fact is, he actually applied to the message and he got back to her, which I think is a testament to him as a person, really. And also look at what she's gone on to do. I mean, she did the pop-up in Oxford Street recently, or somewhere in London around there that I saw on Instagram, and she's gone sky high on TikTok. She's done really well, and I think it's just remarkable that she's only 20 years old, and I mean, had you achieved that much at 20? I hadn't. Don't know about you.
No, I definitely hadn't. Oh yeah, she's amazing. I mean, she's young, she's determined. I think I remember talking to her at the time when Lord Sugar said he's decided to invest in her, and I think she almost sort of sent an email to him on a whim, sort of really not expecting any sort of response or reply. But he saw her. She's got a great, she runs Tresor, which is a jewellery business, sort of low cost fashion jewellery, but decent quality. And but she also has, similar to Gemma, similar to Harpreet, the ability to tell their story. So where all three of them have been very effective is using social media, I think, to go behind the scenes of what it's like to run a business. And, often, one of the things I often think is, when you follow high profile business people on a social media platform, particularly platforms like Instagram, or even now sort of TikTok and Snapchat being used, you often don't see the true story of what goes on behind the scenes. And all those three girls have in common is they're quite raw. They're not scared to talk about when times are tough. They'll show you when they're packing boxes, when they're doing the sort of mundane stuff, as well as the more glamorous sort of PR glitzy launches and openings and that kind of stuff. And I think people buy into that. They'd rather follow someone on a journey like that than someone that's sort of just posting pictures of themselves, in their swimwear in a beach club in Ibiza. It's much more real, and they see the journey and they see the success and they feel a part of that. And that's something that, as a PR person, I encourage them to be open and to share. And Gemma actually in particular is incredible at it. You feel like her, you're part of her family, and it has a commercial benefit too, but it doesn't come naturally to everyone. I think it's a younger generation that are much more comfortable sharing the behind the scenes. If I look at how I communicate on social media, it's not like that at all. But you've got to be yourself and represent yourself in the truest sense. I don't think there's any other way to do it. You can't pretend to be something you're not. So that's not my style of doing things. It doesn't come naturally to me to do that. I do it in a different way. But with this generation of young entrepreneurs opening themselves up and being a bit more vulnerable and sharing the highs and the lows and the graft that goes into achieving the success that they've achieved, I think that's such a positive message for young entrepreneurs. And that's really, why Lord Sugar agreed to do The Apprentice in the first place. If I go back 17, 18 years ago, we were sort of going to schools and doing talks, and you might hit 200, 300 people during a talk, but it's quite labour intensive to do that. And when he saw the format of The Apprentice in the States, it sort of clicked to him. This is a way that, I can inspire people, not 200, 300 people at a time, but 2-3 million at a time. I mean, obviously now the viewing figures are closer to 10 million. So it's an amazing platform, but that was his motivation for doing it. And sometimes people criticise The Apprentice and they say they're all morons and I could do that. How do they find these muppets? But the fact of it is the cream always rises to the top. It's factual entertainment. It's designed to be an entertaining show, but within it, there are lots of lessons to be learned. And actually, the generation where it has the biggest success is a sort of 18 to 24-year-old age group that just see it and feel motivated, and they learn from the mistakes and the stupidity and the lessons that you see on the show, but in a way that doesn't feel like they're being taught or educated. And I think that's part of the beauty of the show, that it's been a privilege for me to work on for, I think we're about to do series 16, I think it is, maybe 17. Lost track, but it's been a good journey.
It has, and I'm one of those people, to be honest with you. I mean, it massively inspired me in my 20s, big time. So it's kind of funny how we now talk to each other, and we've done some stuff together. It's very, you just couldn't imagine that, could you, at the time? So it's just, again, it's another amazing thing there. But let's wrap this up, actually, Andrew. I guess let's talk about the future. We've both reached 2 years. What's next for you? Well, what about the next 2 years?
I've got to be honest with you, I'm not a big one for sort of long-term planning. And when I stepped back from Frank, it was as much a personal decision as a professional one. So in all honesty, as stupid as it might sound, I want to continue what I'm doing. I want to keep working on that work-life balance. Most importantly, I want to enjoy it. And so far, I can sort of look back over the last 2 years and I'm loving it. I mean, I'm absolutely so happy I made the decision to do what I do. With that, I think comes financial success. I've never been a believer that you sort of chase the money. You kind of do what you love, and if you're good at it, the money sort of comes. Yes, I set myself targets because I'm competitive and driven, and personally, I sort of, if I wasn't doing better this year than I was last year, it would sort of, I don't know if it feel like a failure, but I always feel like you've got to be moving forwards and growing. So really for the next 2 years and beyond, I just want to tick those boxes of, am I enjoying it? Is it taking over my life? Or am I getting a better quality of life? I want to learn to say yes to the right things, which means saying no to the wrong things, which again, like I said, is sort of work in progress. But there's no master plan, really, which sounds a bit dull, but more of the same. I'll be very happy if I'm sat here in 2 years and, I'm as positive as I am today. That would be success for me.
Well, that's good, though. I mean, you've reached that point in your life where you've always had a master plan, and now you're taking the opposite route, and why not? That's what's wrong with that? That's completely fine. Whereas I'm of the age, a little bit younger than you, just a couple of years. I'm of the age. Yeah, maybe more a couple of years. I'm of the age now where we are. Well, we're doing a soft launch for our 2.0 platform any week now. I mean, I'm not going to pluck a number out of thin air. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, not sure. I mean, the goal was always to do something like this, but obviously we kept that top secret because we wanted to see whether there was going to be any interest and any demand in the kind of type of stories we were writing, and also the kind of brands that we were featuring. And obviously we proved that now. So I feel like, the natural next step is, I didn't really want to get into the classic publishing ad revenue model, especially as that's now on a decline. A lot of magazines have had to shut down, unfortunately, because of the sort of decreasing revenues over the last few years. So I thought we'll try something a little bit different, do something a little bit unorthodox, which was to instead actually sell some of the products that we're talking about. Now, of course, it's a little bit of what's the word? It could go a number of ways. We don't know how successful or how badly it's going to fail or how well it's going to do. We have no idea, but that's what's next for us. So we were hoping to launch on our birthday. we'll see what happens. But, you know, I just want to say, I just want to do a really big thank you to anyone that's watching this right now. I just want to say massive thank you to everyone that has supported us, worked with us, read our articles, shared our posts, liked, commented, believed in us, sent us news, sent us their, you know, their press releases, and everyone that's just said yes and helped us out, really. I mean, certainly couldn't have done it without you guys. So I just want to say happy birthday to us. Wouldn't be here without the unbelievable support we've received from everyone. So just want to say one more time, happy birthday to us, and thank you very much. And also thank you to Andrew for being here today, and also for the thousands upon thousands of clicks that you've sent our way. So thank you very much.
My pleasure, and a happy birthday from me too. I'm sure you're going to have continued success.